welcome first and foremost, and just a quick reminder, this happens every day at noon, Monday through Friday. You can join in as many of them as you want, or as few of them as you want. The goal is to focus on practices and things that we can do to empower ourselves to really activate sort of these foundational states that are required for well-being. And so I love this image because I think this is really fundamentally what we're doing, both with ketamine as well as, in these practices. So, just a quick reminder, the overarching theme here is we are trying to do things intentionally where we turn temporary states into permanent traits. So temporary states would be states of feeling positive, feeling optimistic, feeling happy, feeling grateful, feeling forgiving, right? Fill in the blank. We all have glimpses of these throughout our day. And the question for those of us that grapple with anxiety and depression is, how do we increase the volume or the frequency of these temporary states to the point where they actually become what we call permanent traits in our character and our personality. And so the good news is we can use some basic knowledge of neurobiology here and say, we know that we can actually grow these experiences by leveraging what we call self-directed neuroplasticity. So quick reminder here, everything that we experience, every thought, every sensation, every emotion, everything that we experience throughout the day is the result of this collection of, of about 100 billion brain cells called neurons communicating with each other, right? They neurons that fire together, wire together. The more a certain collection of neurons that gives us, let's say, the subjective experience of anxiety or depression or whatever, the more that gets activated, the stronger that gets. So we're going to use that and say, well, great. So we also know that if we repeatedly activate, the neurons that are involved in a state of mindfulness or contentedness or calmness, the more we activate that, then the more, sort of normal that becomes. So in that sense, wellness or well-being is truly the direct result of having frequent, repetitive, positive experiences. So this whole process here of having these weekly practice sessions is that we get together and we intentionally practice engaging those parts of our nervous system that give us the positivity that I think we're all looking for, rather than being chronically overwhelmed with heaviness or sadness or anxiety. We want to sort of shift our attention on a regular basis and say, let me make sure I'm flexing those parts of my neurology so that I'm actually stimulating desired experiences of the sort that I want. So as I mentioned earlier, these groups, the idea is short and sweet. So every day, 15 minutes, everyone is welcome, whether you're a CIT patient or not. So feel free to invite friends and family or anyone that you can think of who may benefit from this. We'll practice together for 15 minutes, and then we'll have Q&A for 15 minutes after the practice. Totally optional if you want to stick around for the Q&A, but just want to open that up for everyone. Video participation is optional, so if you're feeling shy or you just want to turn the video off and just listen in, that's totally fine. During the Q&A, you'll have a chance to raise your hand and actually ask questions. So there's a chat feature or the ability to raise your hand in this Google Meet. And when we do that, please no advice giving or cross-talking. We really want this to be a safe space for people to have their experience and ask questions about the techniques or their personal experience, whatever it is. We just want this to be a really open forum. And then lastly, before we get into it, we are recording this, but it's really being recorded, for this part here that I'm running through and the practice itself, so that we can start creating a bit of a library for our patients and others to access when in case they can't make it at noon or can't make it on certain days. Okay, so today is Monday, and I like to think of it's Mindfulness Monday. So we're going to practice mindfulness, but I first want to define what mindfulness is, because I've been doing this for many years, and I know there's oftentimes some real confusion around, oh, I can't meditate, or I'm not good at this mindfulness thing because I just can't clear my mind of thoughts or memories or anything like that. So just to be clear, that's not what we're doing here. We are just very intentionally going to activate a part of ourselves that is going to pay attention to the present moment. And then the hard part here is to do so without judgment. So I'm going to walk you through a guided meditation, and the idea is for you to sort of just follow along with the instructions and just see if you can just, for a few moments today, just suspend the need to engage with your thoughts or your emotions or whatever it might be. And really what we're looking for here is, the benefits of doing this is the more we practice this, sort of sitting back and noticing how our mind works, the more data we collect, the more familiar we become with what we would call self-awareness. And the more awareness we have about what's actually going on in our minds, the better we are able to self-regulate. So both our emotions as well as our thoughts. And ultimately, the whole point of practicing mindfulness is to create a sense of freedom that we can choose what we want to do next in any given moment based on what's important to us, and not feel so at the mercy of lots of thoughts and emotions that are imposed upon us. Okay, so let's practice. The first step, go ahead and close your eyes, and I'll walk you through this verbally, but there's some distinct patterns here, or what constitutes this form of mindfulness. So the first step is to choose an aspect of your present experience. I'm going to focus on breath and guide you through breath, but you could also choose something that you could choose sound, you could choose a mantra, you could light a candle and simply focus on the candle. The point here is something in the present moment that you are intentionally choosing to pay attention to. And then the second step is to set the intention to keep your focus on this experience. So this is what we call the neutral observer. You're simply watching. You're not trying to change. You're not trying to shape the experience in any way. You're simply sitting quietly and observing your breath coming and going. And then inevitably what will happen, step 3, is you will notice that the mind wants to wander. Usually within seconds, the mind is already thinking of things in the future, a to-do list, or things in the past. And the goal there is to, when you notice that, is to just gently and calmly choose to return your attention back to the present moment. Notice if there's any sort of self-recrimination or judgment that comes up. Oh, I can't do this, and I'm terrible at it, or this always happens. Even that, just notice your mind doing that, and let's start there. So with your eyes closed, first start by noticing your contact with the ground, so your feet on the ground. Notice your butt sitting in the chair, and maybe your back is leaning against the rest of the chair. Noticing your hands on your lap, either holding one another or just resting gently on your lap. And bring your attention inward and notice that the body is breathing. The lungs know exactly what to do. It doesn't require you to intentionally do anything. And see if you can get really curious about various aspects of breath. So notice, starting with the nostrils, cold air entering the nostrils, passing through your nasal cavity and through your throat, down into your lungs. Noticing how, as you inhale, your lungs expand, and that means your chest expands, your shoulders rise, your belly expands. And then on the exhale, that whole process reverses. So your belly contracts and your chest contracts, your shoulders drop, and warm air now passes out of your nostrils. It's a very simple process, and it's happening thousands of times a day. And so what we're doing right now is we're choosing to intentionally focus on this process. And I suggest that you pick one spot where you feel breath most prominently. Doesn't matter where, it could be your chest or your belly or your nostrils, but just pick one area to focus on and see if you can just simply keep your attention there. So again, noticing breath passing through your nostrils, through your throat and into your lungs, and just noticing all the telltale signs that your body is breathing. And just get really curious. Just sitting back and watching. And by this point, chances are good that your mind has already begun to wander somewhere. Doesn't matter, it's totally normal. And if that is the case, just gently bring your attention back to the present moment, noticing breath entering and leaving your body. And staying curious about, again, these telltale signs that your body is breathing, that you are being breathed. Your shoulders and your belly, again, whichever point you chose, just maintain your attention there. Again, if you notice that your mind has wandered, thinking about something else, just gently bring it back to breath. One of the reasons we choose breath is because it's always there. It's always available to us. And it's one of the few bodily functions that happens both on its own, but is also something that we can intentionally control. We can hold our breath, we can elongate the breath. But right now, the goal is just to sit back and observe the body breathing and what happens to the mind, what happens to your attention as you're trying to focus on breath. What does your mind do? And now go ahead and take a deep, intentional breath in, filling up your lungs, your belly, and hold at the top for just a moment. And then a long exhale. Just go ahead and do that again. Intentionally inhaling as fully as you can. And on this exhale, go ahead and open your eyes. And notice how as soon as you open your eyes, everything changes. And see if in the background, even though your eyes are open and you're now maybe looking at the monitor, see if you can still maintain an awareness in the background of your body breathing. And just allow that observer part of you just to simply monitor in a non-judgmental way, just noticing, even though I'm doing something completely different now, I'm still aware that the body is breathing. Again, the reason we're doing this is, just to emphasize, the point here is not to be perfect or an expert at keeping your attention on your breath. The point really is your ability to notice when your mind has wandered. That's the superpower, is noticing when your mind has gotten hijacked by who knows what, whatever anxious thoughts or memories, whatever's going on. It happens to all of us. But then the ability to notice that and then to choose to bring your attention back, that's, if you will, that's the rep. That's like going to the gym and doing your workout. That's the rep. And the more frequently we practice that, noticing my mind has wandered, I'm going to intentionally bring it back. The more we practice that, the more we're strengthening the neural networks in our brain that allow that kind of attentional control, if you will. And that control, again, allows us when we feel anxious or depressed. It's the part of us that allows us to make decisions about where we want to focus our attention. And that, the more we practice it, becomes quite literally a kind of superpower that that gives us the freedom to not be at the mercy of overwhelming sadness or anxiety all the time. We actually get to decide where we want to focus our attention. So I hope that was helpful. If you'd like support, you can always set up a meeting with me, just citclinics.com/Oli. You can take a picture of the QR code and just set up a session that way.